Earlier this week we did a video on one-tricking champions and you guys seemed to like that a lot. As a result, today I thought we should go in the polar opposite direction and talk about what champions you should be playing when you are auto-filled. Typically these champions are going to be something that you're not going to be able to practice nearly as much, but you're still going to want to have as much in-game impact as possible. While normally I do recommend dodging if you get auto-filled to a role that you can't play, sometimes you're just not able to dodge, maybe you've already dodged or you only have time for a few games. No matter the reason, if you do find yourself auto-filled, these are going to be your best picks. Before we get into the video, make sure you check out our website, GameLeap.com. There we have hundreds of guides, all done by challenger players, sorted into a quick and easy to use courses system. We have courses both on the 5 fundamental roles as well as champion specific courses, so if you haven't already, make sure to check it out today. You can sign up using the link in the description below. Now the biggest mistake that I do see people making when they are auto-filled is they'll pick something that's very hard to play when they have little to no experience on it. For example, an ADC main might pick Irelia mid or top. On the other hand, a mid lane main might pick Thresh support. These picks typically take a lot of experience to make work, and if you are autofilling, you're not going to have nearly as much impact as a Thresh main might have. So without further ado, I'm going to give you 2 picks for each and every role. Each one of these picks are going to be easy to pick up, and they're going to offer a lot for your team. This gives you the best chance there is for winning your autofill games. Starting off right away in the top lane, our first pick is going to be Garen. Garen is one of the most simple champions out there. He doesn't have any skill shots, and the hardest part about him is using his abilities at the right time and focusing the right target. His laning phase is good, and he's able to sustain through a lot of harder matchups. By maxing Q, you're able to trade very heavily onto melee champions. You have good wave clear with your E, and your W gives you a lot of resistances and damage reduction, allowing you to thrive in early and mid game fights. You should be able to pick this champion up quickly and be comfortable on him in less than 20 games. Aside from that, all you have to do is apply your top lane knowledge. Wave management is a huge thing with Garen, so make sure that you're freezing when appropriate and pushing when appropriate. Remember, the main goal as Garen is to be a tanky frontline. You don't want to assassinate anyone, you're not looking to do DPS, you just want to soak as much damage as possible and execute somebody with your ultimate. Our number 2 pick in the top lane is going to be Sion. Sion is fantastic because he is a tank, but you're still able to play the laning phase aggressive. Maxing Q will allow you to push waves as possible and stack the passive on your W up. If you're snowballing on Sion, you have the opportunity to pick up items like Titanic Hydra and Sterix Gauge. Otherwise, you can just go full tank and look to dish out as much CC as possible while soaking as much damage as possible. You do have the Suicide Sion strat as well, although I would not really recommend this as I don't think it is a very good way to play Sion as you give too much gold to the enemy team. It's going to take a little bit to get used to how long it takes for your Q to charge up before you get a knockup, but other than that, the champion is very straightforward and pretty easy to play. Moving on to jungle, our first pick is going to be Nunu. Now Nunu isn't as simple as he used to be before the rework, but he still is a fantastic jungler with just as much objective control as before. Really, the only difficult part about Nunu's kit is his snowball and getting used to that and steering it properly. Due to Aftershock and the healing in your kit, you're going to survive a long time and be able to soak up a lot of damage. You also clear very quickly and you're one of the fastest clearing full tanks in the jungle. You're able to solo dragons really easily as Nunu, and you can also solo the Rift Herald pretty quickly. He has one of the best combo smites in the game, and as a result, once you get used to it, you can usually just 50-50 Baron and nobody's really going to be out smiting you. Nunu is a fantastic champion if you are looking to build your jungle experience, as he's very easy to pilot and clear with. This gives you more time to focus on playing the map and learning where you should be and when. Our number 2 pick for jungle is going to be Hecarim. Hecarim is fantastic because his clear speed is so fast that he can spam gank lanes while still keeping his entire jungle down. Because of this, he's one of the highest pressure junglers in the game and a very snowbally champion on top of that. Hecarim is honestly a pick that you currently must have in your jungle champion pool. He's very strong right now because of Conqueror, and on top of that he's very easy to pick up. He doesn't have any skill shots really to worry about, and his Q is pretty easy to use as well. It should only take you a few games to get used to your E and using it at its max charge. Aside from that, really, the only thing you need to worry about is using your W, so it's going to heal you as much as possible. The main thing to keep in mind here is if you are already full HP, you don't really want to be using the W, unless of course you're only using the W for damage, in which case you should just use your W right away. Don't get too caught up ganking because you do want to be making sure you utilize Hecarim's insane clear speed to keep ahead in EXP. Moving on to the mid lane, our first pick is going to be Malzahar. Malzahar again is a very simple champion at his core. Most of his abilities are going to be point and click. You don't really need to worry about landing any skill shots on this champion except for your Q, and on top of that you don't really need to worry about managing any waves. This is because Malzahar naturally just has a lot of push with his E and his voidlings. You'll be able to clear waves very quickly, which will either allow you to push for plates or roam to the side lane and utilize your ultimate to lock somebody down and get a free kill. Malzahar is probably the easiest mid lane in the entire game to gank for, so once you have your level 6 you should be looking to set up some ganks for mid lane. Ask your jungler to come mid, press R, and you should be getting a kill. Oftentimes in lower elos, most people won't even build QSS, so every time your ult is up, you can get a kill. In higher elos, people will start buying QSS, but keep in mind that's a 1300 gold investment, which should allow you to get enough pressure in your lane to just take control of the map. His teamfighting is also very good because you're able to just ult whatever target doesn't have a QSS and lock them down for the full duration of your ultimate. Malzahar is especially good at stopping divers and assassins. This makes him pretty good in most metas, and the only meta that he isn't really good in is a full tank meta. This is because in a tank meta, most fights are played front to back, which means you're just going to be hitting the front tank line and nobody's going to be diving the carries. The hardest part about Malzahar is probably landing his Q. It's his only skill shot, and honestly you don't even really need to be landing it to be effective on this champion. Moving on to our number 2 pick for the mid lane, it's going to be Annie. Now I'm sure that you've all heard LS say just pick Annie in order to climb. And while I don't think Annie is a good pick to be picking in every single game, if you are auto-filled, she's a very simple champion that you can just pick up really easily and see success on. Obviously better champions exist, but if you don't really know what you're doing, Annie is always a safe pick. She has point click CC, her team fighting is very good, and she has damage reduction on her E, giving her a lot of survivability. Her auto attack range is also very long, which allows her to bully out a lot of champions since pretty much nothing matches her auto range. The hardest part about Annie is using her E at the best time. You both want to be using this spell to charge your passive and to reduce damage onto yourself. If you're able to keep this in mind while playing her, you are going to be seeing a lot of success. Other than that, just focus on stunning the right target, preferably a carry, and blowing them up. Annie's mid and late game team fighting are very good. You should be looking to abuse this and closing out the game with your team once you are fully grouped. Hit as many people with a flash tibbers as possible, and you are most likely to win the team fight off of that. Moving on to ADC, our first pick is going to be Jinx. Now, just a disclaimer, ADC is the one role that I recommend you never autofill into. If you do get placed in ADC and you don't play it, you should probably just dodge. If you are forced to play it, or you're just not very comfortable with it, but you can still play it, I would highly recommend picking up Jinx. Jinx is a very simple champion at her core, and she's able to use her rockets to keep her at a range from the enemy champions, keeping her safe. If you are able to get an assist on one target, then you're going to get excited, which will allow you to pop off in a team fight and do a lot of damage. As an auto-filled ADC, you just want to be looking to farm out the laning phase, and that's it. Don't look for kills, don't look to roam, just farm, get plates if you can, try not to overextend. Make sure that you're keeping your lane warded so you don't get ganked, and that's really it. There isn't much to say about this role, as it mostly comes down to mechanics. How well you're able to position while still dealing damage is basically what it's going to come down to with ADC, no matter what champion you're playing. Moving on to our number 2 pick for ADC, it's going to be Caixa. Now, most things that I did say for Jinx apply to Caixa as well, the only difference being she is a lower range ADC than Jinx, and she deals a lot more damage up front. Caixa doesn't need to get excited to deal nearly as much damage, and she has a lot more inherent safety in her kit. Her evolved E gives her a stealth, and her ultimate gives her a massive shield while still allowing you to reposition. Kai'Sa is really good at playing off of other champions that have CC. If you're a more aggressive laner, I would highly recommend picking up Kai'Sa as your autofill ADC. You should also be picking this anytime you see a support with heavy CC locked in for your team. Kai'Sa synergizes so well with lockdown supports and junglers, it's just crazy. She's able to do so much damage so quickly. Just make sure that you're not getting ahead of yourself and Eing forward into a full team or ulting straight into the backline of the enemy team. Remember, you're an ADC, not an assassin, and just because you can dive to the enemy backline doesn't mean that you should. Again, you can just look to farm out the lane, take plates whenever possible, and just get your items so that you're able to carry in a late game team fight. Last but not least, we have support, and our first pick for support is going to be Sona. Sona might be the most simple support in the game. The only skill shot that she has is her ultimate, so she's very easy to pick up for beginners. Mana management can be a little bit rough on Sona, but if you just build a tier, this solves any problems that you might have with mana. If you are autofilled to support, I don't recommend looking to make any aggressive plays happen. Just try and keep your ADC alive as much as possible. Too often I see auto-filled supports playing too aggressive and they don't really know what's going on in the lane and they end up just getting killed for free. If you're able to just not die and keep your ADC alive as the support, then you're already doing a fantastic job. You don't really need to worry about anything else. You always have the option to scale into the late game with this pick, so you don't have to worry about winning or losing your lane. Our final pick is going to be Nami. Nami is a more aggressive enchanter. She's still able to keep your ADC topped off while being able to trade with the enemy laners a lot easier. Landing her bubble can take a little bit of getting used to, but it's not too hard once you do have a little bit of practice with her. Her ultimate is a very reliable form of CC, and you're able to use it to both engage and disengage. While you are new to Nami, you should be focusing on using your passive to give movement speed to your allies and landing as many bubbles as possible. Again, the only goal you have here is keeping your ADC alive. You don't need to play aggressive and try and force plays to happen. This is because if you do mess this up, then you'll likely just die for free, and you never want the enemy bot lane snowballing out of control. If you're not comfortable on the role, it's okay to just scale into the late game as bot lane. That is about it for today's video on auto-filling into other roles. If you haven't already, check out our website, gameleap.com. There we have hundreds of guides all done by challenger players sorted into a quick and easy to use courses system. We have courses both on the 5 fundamental roles as well as champion specific courses. These are constantly being updated with new videos, and honestly, I think it's one of the best resources out there for learning League. So if you are interested in stepping up your game, make sure to check us out using the link in the description below. As always, I'm Panther, I hope you learned something valuable, and I will see you in the next one.